Hey y'all. So I don't make videos that often, but I had a lot of thoughts the other night. Um, and I thought about just writing them up, but it felt better to make a video. Um, but yeah, a lot of thoughts regarding anti-SJW uh, people on the internet, purity culture. I say on the internet, but in real life as well. Um, and kind of just the nuances between that. And what prompted all of these thoughts was it was the Detective Pikachu movie. Just follow me here for a second. Okay, so I went to see it last night. So spoilers, because I'm going to be talking about some plot twists in the film. If you haven't seen it, I haven't posted a review for it yet, but go watch it. It's fun, and that's the whole point. Is that it's a fun movie, and what more could you ask for? Um, so yeah, go watch it, and then can come back, and I'll still be here. Um, yeah. So the issue that was brought up, and I did not even kind of process it as I was watching it. Um, but my partner had been talking about it earlier. My partner, first of all, is um, queer, disabled, uh, lots of other things. I can let them talk about that on their own. They have their own YouTube channel. I can put a link to that somewhere. Anyway, the point being, um, yeah, they brought up to me the fact of the villain of the movie, who is, again, spoilers, a man who has vague, rare disorder that puts him into a wheelchair, makes him sick. It's never really explained outside of this quick exposition at the beginning of the film. And his whole motivation is weird, but in general, just not even for disabled things, but it is weird in that he wants to take over the body of Mewtwo, who is the most popular or not most popular. He is the most powerful Pokemon. Is it he? I do not know enough about Pokemon. I'm sorry. Um. So yeah, it's a trope that is often seen, especially with villains in movies, of that they are disabled and I don't know, feel cheated or something, and so fight to get over their disability, and in doing so, just destroy shit. Um, I am not a disabled activist. As I mean, I of course support disabled issues, but I myself am not disabled, so I'm not going to try and go into the details about that. No. What I want to talk about first of all is how I didn't notice that it was like I knew it was a weird motivation. I realized while watching it, but I didn't even notice while watching it that it was negatively affecting queer people, and that's my own, um, constantly trying to evolve and constantly trying to notice issues around me. Um, that being said, I don't think it ruins the movie for me at all. It is something that needs to be critiqued because like all movies need critique. There is no such thing I think as the perfect movie. There are good movies, there are great movies, there are wonderful movies that deal with representation. I don't think there is a perfect movie, and I don't think we should be striving for a perfect movie. I think it is perfectly acceptable to critique a movie for its flaws, and that's what this is it is a flaw in representation. I, as someone who works with people in the movie industry, highly doubt the writers even thought about disability politics when they made their villain be put in a wheelchair. For a lot of writers, there is a terrible tendency to just kind of gloss over that as even just an idea. Is it's that disability is just this horrible consequence that is just shy of death for their characters so they can keep them around, but they're tortured. Which, again, not going into that. I'm just saying that's probably what they probably didn't even think about what they were doing. Which was lazy writing. That's fair of me to say. Like I said, I love the movie in general. I thought the heroes were great. I thought the Pokemon were adorable. I'm kind of like a secondhand fan of Pokemon. I've played Pokemon Go. I follow along with the storylines that my friends play. It's just never really been my cup of tea. But yeah, it was adorable. It was cute. It was a little convoluted, but it was a fun time and a great thing to take your friends and family out to. And I don't think it needs to be a particularly woke thing. So, well, I'm gonna say it's not dealing with it doesn't deal with a social agenda really, or pushing for anything like that. It Star Wars, I would argue, has some social agenda things. Star Trek definitely does. There's a lot of media that deals with kind of trying to send a message about something, usually about in society. Fantasy and sci-fi are perfectly situated for it because it can take real life problems and consequences and take it out of the context of our reality, putting it in a different context so we can see things through a different light. That's been the point of science fiction since its creation. And somewhat with fantasy as well. Fantasy, it's a little hard to kind of figure out where the line between mythology ends and pure fantasy and storytelling begins, but that's besides the point. Again, we're getting way off into a tangent. Yeah, so I was thinking about what my partner was saying about how, yeah, this is perfect. And they agree with me, by the way, that the movie was fun. That was just an unfortunate part of the film. It was this point of representation. But it doesn't ruin it. And I was thinking about old 80s movies. And actually, no, what I was thinking about was an article my dad sent me on Marvel movies. And how if you watch Iron Man again, which I stand by as being a good film, has some awkward moments in it past the Me Too movement, which I know the Me Too movement has been going on longer than it's been a popular hashtag, but still, in that, with the way Tony will flirt with his secretary, Pepper Potts, at a work event, and it's a whole thing. It probably, if it came out today, that would cause some issues. It would cause some level of controversy. It would say, hey, we shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have said that in your film. That's very sexist, and that's something that women have to deal with all the time. And this wasn't that long ago. This was 10 years, which, grand history is not that long. But we say it's of the time. It was what the time was, which is not to say that it was a good thing at the time. It was just as having this trope of a villain in a wheelchair is not good now. That's just the way it is. But it's not remarked upon. It wasn't remarked upon in Iron Man when Iron Man came out. I never even thought about it, and I'm a pretty feminist person, I like to think. And so it's not about saying that something is of the time, meaning, oh, it was okay then. It means that we have progressed as society to recognize that this is a problem. And I'm hoping that within 5-10 years, looking back at Detective Pikachu, we'll be like, oh, that's a weird trope that they threw in there. Again, that doesn't mean it was good for the time. And there are plenty of people who have been traumatized for the way that people in wheelchairs get treated because of tropes like this, and I totally understand why you would not want to see the film. I would totally understand why it would ruin it for you. Just as I'm sure people got turned off by Iron Man because of these things back then, but some people didn't notice. People in 80s movies with the terrible racist, sexist jokes going on all the time, and it wasn't remarked upon because it was of the time. So that's where I'm kind of coming with the progressive versus purity culture versus SJWs. Because the argument I see all the time is people say X thing is bad, or X trope, I should say, is bad. For example, wheelchair villain. And then the immediate reactions from purity culture are to say, boycott this film, do not watch this film, it's supporting this negative trope, Detective Pikachu is trash, blah, 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 blah. Which prompts the anti-SJW kind of community to go, SJWs have gone too far. Critiquing it. Detective Pikachu isn't supposed to have any social agenda. Stop your whining. And then it just turns into an internet brawl and Twitter explodes. This hasn't happened with this movie, but it's happened with enough movies that you know what I'm talking about here. Neither of those views are right. Obviously. There is nuance, I believe, in everything. I do not like the idea that social justice can go too far. That's not how social justice works, or progressive things work. There is no, like I said, there's no perfect progressive field that we are trying to get to, because that's impossible. What we need to try and get to would be a better understanding. And we are getting. Again, going back to Detective Pikachu, this features prominently a mixed race protagonist. And no one is commenting on it. No one's criticizing it. No one's saying anything about it. For this major... Pokemon is a huge franchise. And the main character is half black. Or mixed race. I don't know how Justice Smith puts that forward. But that's how it is. And yeah, no one cares. Not even the most radical campaigns against movies care that it's being led by him, and hopefully it'll get a sequel and he'll lead that as well. I hope so, because I loved it. Sorry, the camera keeps shaking. I'm not, like I said, I don't do videos that often. Yeah, so that's a wonderful thing to praise for the movie for social justice, because no matter what people say, social justice isn't everything. That's how it works. Diversity isn't in. Diversity is a fact of life that media is slowly starting to incorporate and being able to show. And it's a process of how more media reflects more of reality, and then reality will reflect then more of media as people learn. Because the way a lot of people learn about issues is not from people who they know. Quite honestly, sometimes it is. And it's great to have people in your life. Speaking from experience, it is so wonderful to have people in your life who will call you out on your bullshit and be able to teach you things. But that is not the job of any particular community, to teach you how you're being wrong or offensive or whatever. Everyone has their own lives to live. They can go off and... That's not their job. Media has a wonderful opportunity, and has throughout society, to show this, to show other parts of life, and to be able to make it more accepting. Because if you see your favorite character from a movie who is a person of color, or queer, or disabled, or whatever else, and then you'll say, oh, well, if I meet a real person like this, then they're just like this person, so they're a person like me. And they'll know how to treat that person better. I mean, the way to treat a person is to be as a person, but you have to have it in your mind. It's a tricky Jenga tower. I'm trying to figure out, and I know a lot of people will get exasperated sometimes, especially, and I'm sorry, sometimes older generations, because I know my parents are trying all the time to try and understand things with queer culture, things with social justice culture. And the important part is that they're trying. And they get tripped up because they don't know how to say the right thing. They don't know how it is because that's not how they were raised. A lot of people today, I do not know a lot of things because that's how I was raised. That's how our society works, but I'm learning. And I'm trying to put in the effort of learning. And that's sometimes all we can do. It's not about the right words. It's not about the perfect words. It's not about this purity culture. It's about trying to have that effort. It's about trying to say, and I'm not trying to say like, oh, I put in some effort, just be grateful. No, it's good faith. My father was a teacher when I was growing up. And he would say he cares more about the spirit of the rules rather than the little details. So even if you found a loophole or something, that's not important to him. It's about the spirit of it. It's about the good faith you put forward to people. And that matters so much more to other people. Yes, it will hurt transgender people if you say the wrong name. It probably hurts disabled people, for me as a writer and as a person, to not think of their issues, to just do something and to not even think. I've done it. I've made the mistakes multiple times in my writing, in my life. But I'm learning. And I think we as a society are slowly learning. And I think Detective Pikachu is weirdly a great milestone in that. In some ways, it shows our progress that we've taken so far, and it shows the progress yet to come. So this video has gone on way too long, and like I said, I'm so inexperienced with this. But I hope maybe I gave you something to think about as well. And that's my thoughts. See you all later.